Joey Votto, high fly, deep right center, Reds lead. Here's Aquino, and he hammers this one left center field on the run, and it's gone. Back-to-back jacks. Votto, Aquino. The O's are hot.
Hey, this is John Sadak, TV voice of the Cincinnati Reds, and you're up for Late Night Reds Talk.
What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday night, and unfortunately, unlike the last couple times, we do know that this time it does not mean very much fun. This is Late Night Reds Talk, the team that is dwindling, it feels like, after the All-Star break, and we're excited to be here to talk about, hopefully, some reassurance coming our way. I am Tim Daniel, joined as always by our crew, Mr. Nick Kirby. How we doing, man?
Oh, what's going on? The roller coaster continues.
Yes, it does. Also joined us former big league pitcher, Mr. Carlos Guevara. How are you, buddy?
What's happening, guys? I'm doing okay.
You doing all right down there in old San Antonio?
I'm getting by.
Yes, as we all are. And excited to have with us this week, start the show. He is the writer for The Athletic. He's been covering the Reds for quite some time now. This is Mr. Trent Rosecrans. Welcome to your first episode on Late Night Reds Talk. We're happy to have you, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're going to have Trent on to kind of talk a little about the Reds, where we're at right now, probably a few other things. But first, I have to make sure I make some credit, as I saw you getting it set up. Your Star Wars memorabilia behind you is pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's a bit. Is this video? I forgot to ask if we were doing video or just audio.
Yeah, we're on the YouTubes.
Okay, so I should probably set it up a little bit better. I didn't frame it that well. But yeah, I have stuff. I'm a child when it comes down to it. So yeah, so that's just a little bit of it. It's mostly vintage stuff, but
we had Sadak on about a month ago, and the first thing I had to ask him was the He-Man the Masters of the Universe trailer, getting his thoughts on that. So
nice. Yeah,
so I'm definitely up there with you guys. So
Mark Hamill is Skeletor, correct?
He is, yes.
Fellow Niles C. Kinnick High School alum. Mark Hamill, same high school as I went to.
I had a DoorDash, a Uber driver recently. His name was Fluke Skywalker.
I know that guy.
Yeah, and he looked dead on Mark Hamill. It kind of scared me, honestly. So I do obviously want to get into the Reds and everything going on, but I kind of want to touch on a couple things. I was listening to the radio broadcast Sunday during the Brewers game that you did with Tommy in the second inning. And you talked about something that really jumped out to me that I didn't know about you, was that your first All-Star game you worked was the 99 All-Star game in Boston when you were working in Georgia. And you talked about that one of the first events you did in that was you were like around like the top players of the century, just hanging out with like Warren Spahn and like all those guys. What was that process like for you?
It was the coolest thing. I mean, and like you got to set it up. I'm 23. I think I was still, let's see, that would have been 99. So the summer of 99, I'm still the high school writers at the Athens Banner Herald. And for some reason, my sports editor at the time was like, hey, we got an application to cover the All-Star game. I know you were planning on going to Boston this summer anyway. Would you want to go? We can't pay for anything. And I'm 23. And I'm like, hell yeah, I do. So I go up there. I stay at my friend's place. She was in school there, or she might've been out of school and was, anyway, that doesn't really matter, but she was in Boston, in Cambridge. And, so I went and covered the thing, and, you know, that was the year cause the all century team. And so they had the 100 greatest players thing. And I go to that press conference, and it's the most amazing thing. They had everybody up on the dais. And then they went into this breakout room, and you just like turned around. There's at one point where like, I almost killed Robin Yount because it was one of those big ballrooms that had the dividers, and he and I lean up against this wall at the same time, and it happens to be a door, and we fall through it. I'm like, oh great, I'm going to kill Robin Yount before he is inducted into the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown in just a couple of weeks. But it was unbelievable because you just had everybody there. I mean, like, you just like, hey, I'm talking to Willie Mays. Oh, I'm going to talk to Johnny Bench. Oh, I'm going to turn, I'm talking to Nolan Ryan. Oh, I'm going to turn. I mean, it just like, like the greatest names in the history of the sport. It was, it was funny. It was like, I think we've all been there in our careers, in our respective careers, where you're like, can I do this? Am I good enough? Am I willing to put in what I need to do? And at 23, I was like, maybe it's early enough. I can go back to school and figure something else out. But being in that room, I was like, no, man, no. I mean, this is tangible. And how could I ever want to do anything else? I want to be a baseball beat writer. And it took me several more years. But that was 22 years ago. That's a functioning adult. Hopefully. I mean, I was 23, so it's almost as old as I was then, the difference between when I said, okay, yeah, let's do this. And I kept going.
Yeah, obviously the thing everyone remembers the most from that All-Star game is the Ted Williams moment when he comes on the field.
Yeah, there was that. But you also remember, I mean, how good Pedro Martinez is.
Yes.
We were talking peak Pedro. And I think he struck out like
5 out of 6, right?
5 out of 6. I think so. Yeah.
Including Barry.
Including Barry Larkin. I mean, and they were big hitters too. And Pedro was just peak Pedro. And I mean, honestly, there's nobody in this history of the sport I take over peak Pedro.
Me neither.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah.
No Brian Lahare's in that lineup.
Yeah. I think so I grew up a huge Royals fan, and I'm trying to remember who was the Royals. It was Jose. I think it might have been Jose Rosado. That would be 2-time All-Star Jose Rosado.
2 Z's or 1?
S.
Oh,
Jose Rosado was an All-Star. Yes, 2-time All-Star and 99. And honestly, if I'm getting 87 or 97 and 99, if I'm not mistaken, in 97, he got the win in the All-Star game. Let's see. Yep. Got the win in the All-Star game and the 99 All-Star game at Jacobs Field. Jose Rosado, 2-time All-Star.
wow.
These are
Shout
the kind
out.
of things I remember. And, when you grow up a fan of a smaller team, that's what it is. Okay. So I pulled that up. Pedro Martinez, Barry Larkin leads off, strikeout swinging. Larry Walker, strikeout looking. Sammy Sosa, strikeout swinging, not singing. Mark McGwire in the second. Mark McGwire swinging. Matt Williams, E4, reaches on an E4. And then Jeff Bagwell, strikeout swinging. Williams caught stealing.
Mercy.
Wow.
I mean, like, it was unreal. And then the starter for the National League was Kurt Schilling. So
Was he a Philly then?
He was a Philly then.
Yeah, I thought so.
And then I remember, Sean Casey was in that game for the Reds, and Scott Williamson also.
Yeah.
And I remember, it just, you look at that and it's crazy. Jay Bell started that game. Jeez Louise, I didn't remember that.
He was a starter in that game?
Yeah. Started for the National League, second base.
Wow.
Yeah, this for the Reds fans that try to remember this too. This is coming on the heels of the year before in '98. Brett Boone made the All-Star game and didn't even play the All-Star game. He was like the one guy that didn't get in that bat.
There are always those guys. So like this, of course, is like a huge aside, but like I love the All-Star game. I've always loved the All-Star game.
Me too.
And a lot of it is because I think I didn't grow up a Reds fan. I'm not a Reds fan. But I think part of my understanding is I grew up a Royals fan, and I never lived in that area, but I grew up a big Royals fan. So for me, no matter where I lived at the time, I always knew one game a year I would see a Royal. And usually, because I was born in 1975, that means that Royal, at least, for many of those years, they had many, many good players. So they had more than one, Frank White's, Brett Saberhagen's, etc. But it was George Brett. And so I almost always every July, I got to see George Brett play. And that was big because you didn't get that back in the day when we were growing up. And so that is why I still, even though it is anachronistic, I still love the every team gets a participant in the All-Star game rule. I think it's fantastic, and I just always think of 8-9-year-old me, either in Virginia or Texas or Cuba or wherever I was, that I get to see George Brett.
Yeah, I totally understand that. One of the stories I remember you wrote that I really liked, and I wanted to kind of touch on, is you did an article, a story on Griffey Jr. The year he got inducted in Cooperstown. You talked about you were going through your mom was going through some stuff, and you went to Ken, and he kind of helped you out with a bunch of stuff with that. Do you remember kind of that process of like having that conversation and starting that story, like as he was getting inducted?
So, okay, that's funny. The story that I wrote was about several years earlier, me going to Ken and just knowing that his mom had had colon cancer, and my mom had just gotten diagnosed with colon cancer, and he was the only one I knew who had dealt with this. And so we were in spring training. I said, "Hey, Ken, you got a minute?" And he said, "What?" Because he could tell something was up. I've still have a really good relationship with Ken. I like Ken a lot. We talk occasionally. So that day, he sat me down and talked, and he gave me his mom's phone number and says, "Give this to your mom." So it was one of those things that I had never written that story. It didn't feel like it was mine to share. And it was one of those things that, and I've known this through the years, when you're talking about guys at that level, you don't know all the stuff that they do, that they don't do it to get attention, and they would actually prefer you not. I mean, Carlos won't go into detail on this, but Joey Votto does a ton for other people, and he doesn't want people to know that, because that's not why he's doing it. Ken Griffey Jr. the same way. But it was funny. I had flown in because Ken let me. We of course know the day that they're going to announce the Hall of Fame, and I had reached out to Ken and said, "Hey, would it be possible for me to be there when you get the call?" And he said yes, and he invited me. So I was in his kitchen when he got the call.
No kidding.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. It's really, really cool. So I'm in his kitchen, but like I had just, anyway, okay, this is one of those crazy things. I was on, because it was right after New Year's of, I guess, 15, 16. We had long had a vacation planned for, I guess it wouldn't have been my parents' 50th anniversary, because we did that not too long ago. I think it was when my dad was retiring. My sister, we took a cruise, both our families, my parents, my sister and her family, and me and my wife and daughter. And so it was one of those things where it's like I had that vacation, and then the Bengals, I was at the Inquirer at the time, and the Bengals were playing a Sunday night game in Denver, and they asked me if I could help out. I said, only if I can go instead of flying from Cincinnati to Denver back to Cincinnati, if I go Cincinnati to Denver to Orlando. And they're like, yeah. But what happened was, because of all that other stuff, I had to pack in the middle of December for Denver to Orlando to the Bahamas to Orlando to New York, because when they do the Hall of Fame, they do like, hey, we're going to call you, and then the next day you go up. I could book the flight to New York because I was pretty sure Ken Griffey Jr. was getting in. So that was a hell of a packing job I had to do for mid-December for all those places, December, January. So anyway, long story less long, but still long. I am in the Starbucks waiting to go because Ken said, be at my house at this time. And so I'd kind of gotten in. I gotten kind of near his house and was sitting there writing and working on some other stuff. And I was talking to my friend Mark Lancaster. Mark covered the Reds for the Cincinnati Post right before I did. But Mark and I went to college together. He's one of my oldest and best friends. I had two best men in my wedding. I had two people in my wedding, two groomsmen, and Mark was one of them. I was best man in his wedding, that kind of thing. And Mark is in that story because he and Junior were tight as well, and he knew them anyway. And Junior had mentioned something to Mark about my mom. I think it was one of my kickers. I don't think it was the kicker, but it was in that story. But Mark's like, "Have you ever written about Ken and your mom? Have you ever written that story?" I was like, "No, I don't know." And he goes, "You need to, and this is probably the time." So I was like, "Really?" And so I had like an hour, and I just banged it out and wrote it and said, "Hey, this will be something we can use this whenever." And they're like, "No, you want to, we want that. That's part of this whole thing." So I did. That was my first. I did a couple stories that day, but that was one of them. And that was basically like I was wary of writing that because it felt kind of personal. But Mark kind of like nudged me towards it and said, "No, I think this is the right time for that." And because all the other stories are going to be the same, this is one, and enough time has passed that I think it's okay. And so so that was kind of what it was. Is I had that story in the back of my head, and Mark knew about it, and we had talked about it, and he said, you should probably write it. So I wrote it, and it turned out pretty good. It's funny, like I just came up on my memories or whatever, because this was about however many years ago, 6 years or so, it was 5 years ago that this was the weekend of Cooperstown, the induction. And so it popped up on my memories. The Seattle Times asked if they could run that story, republish it. And the Inquirer said, yeah, sure. So it was in their section as well. So that it ran both in January in the Inquirer and then in July in the Seattle Times. And funny enough, I am leaving tomorrow to go to Cooperstown again because there are actually two induction ceremonies this year. This is the one for the Frick Award, which is the broadcasters, and the, oh God, if anybody's going to get this name correct, it has to be me since I kind of renamed it. The Baseball Writers Association of America Career Achievement or Career Excellence Award. Basically, we joke that it's the C. Montgomery Burns Award for, was it the C. Montgomery Burns Award for excellence or achievement in the form of excellence? I don't know. Anyway, it used to be called the Spink Award. Spink wrote forcefully about blocking integration, and we said, yeah, that's probably not the guy that we want our highest award after. So we just changed that. Long story. Well, again, I can't say long story short anymore because none of these are short. I am the president of the Baseball Writers Association of America currently. So part of that is giving out the award, which I should probably learn. They will probably write it down for me this weekend, to both Dick Cagle, who won it this year, and then the family of Nick Cafardo, who won it the year before. Nick passed away just a couple years ago, and so sadly he will not be able to get that. But yeah, so I will do that, and then because they split it up this year to try to get people in Cooperstown, they will have another induction ceremony in September, and I will also be at that one. So I'm looking forward to both of those. That should be really, really cool. So yes, man, you've asked two questions and I've rambled for like 15 minutes. So I really apologize.
That's all right, man. That's all right. So that's what we're here for. We enjoy this stuff. And obviously when I heard you say that stuff about everything on Sunday, I was like, I got to ask him about that because I knew you were coming on the show this week. So we'll get to it real quick while we still have you. So obviously, everyone's kind of feels like the sky is falling 1-5 post All-Star break. Nick Castellanos, we learned, literally just a little bit ago, had a microfracture, I guess, in his wrist from getting hit by the pitch Friday in the first game back from the break. I went Saturday and sat through that debacle of, the extra innings and the rain delay, and that was terrible. So looking at this team now, where they're at, obviously, the good news is the Brewers were swept by Kansas City. They lost today. Do you kind of still, for what you're hearing from the fan, do you feel like it's maybe we're kind of that teetering line where forever felt like they were potentially buyers moving forward, and now it's up in the air?
Yeah, and the Cardinals are kind of in a similar spot. I still think it's got to be tough because they're not taking any advantage of the Brewers losing to the Royals. And how realistic is it? Well, the rest of their schedule is not real good. They're not playing good teams the rest of the way. I think that, let's see, how many teams with winning records do they have left? They have 3 more against the Mets. Do the Phillies have a winning record now? There's 3 games against them. 3 against the Dodgers, 2 against the White Sox. I mean, that's about it. I think there's like 12 games against teams who have winning records right now for the rest of the season, over 70 some games.
It's really pronounced in September if you compare the 2 team schedules, because the Brewers don't play the Pirates in September and the Reds play them obviously 9 times in the last
9 times, 3
18.
against the Tigers. You know, it's like you said, it's pronounced, and the Cubs could be very different by then.
I think the waiver trade deadline being moved kills the Reds, because I feel like it could really have potentially capitalized on that, kind of waited. And that seems like maybe more of the players the Reds are probably looking at anyways.
Yeah. You know, it's relievers, and you never know with relievers. And you especially know less right now, because who are they really? We've had a month of them being able to do what they're doing now, not using foreign substances. So what do you know about these guys? And that's it's a tough spot to be in. And then of course, every July, relievers are overvalued. And what do you give up? And there are only so many to go around, and how many of them are good anyway?
Or get hurt. I mean, you know, relievers get hurt. Look at the Reds. You know, their top 2 guys are on the IL right now. It's tough to trade for reliever rentals.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, you know, obviously guys that have multiple years of control, that's a little bit different, because, you know, that is a different equation.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carlos, about the relievers and the values and the.
I know my worth.
So
we wouldn't trade you.
I don't have to sit here and listen to you guys.
We wouldn't trade you.
Well, and you know, yes, we'll just leave it at that. Love you, Carlos.
Yeah. You know, the one of the things too, like you mentioned, like the schedule, everything there. Obviously, this is a big, you know, the next 7 games are division foes. Like we said, we don't know what these teams are doing right now. I mean, we know about the depleted rotation of the Cardinals. We know about the Cubs and, you know, the potential of, you know, by the time the Reds leave Chicago, Chris Bryant might not be there anymore by the time they leave. So, you know, that's, you know, and I think the big thing people always talk about, and you being around baseball so long now, when you win, you know, 1 game against your division, it's basically like 2 wins. And this is like a really big stretch for them to get wins against teams they're more than likely better than.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they have to do it. They have to take care of the Cardinals, because really this series, if you fall to the Cardinals, well, all of a sudden they're right there with you, or could be ahead of you. I haven't looked at the math yet. And I guess it depends on what happens tonight as we speak on Wednesday. They're down in the 4th, but you know, it could be pivotal to see just where they stand, because if you fall too much further behind, that's bad news. I mean, they're a game and a half. The Reds are just a game and a half behind. I mean, they're going to be a game ahead of one of those two teams after tonight, because they're 6.5 out behind Milwaukee. Cubs and Cardinals playing each other, both 8 games out. One of those teams is going to win that game.
I think if you're a Reds fan, you almost want to root for the Cubs. It seems like they're more committed to selling than the Cardinals are. Everything I've heard about the Cardinals seems like they may just kind of more stand pat. But it seems like the Cubs, unless they go really, really crazy, they're pretty set on selling.
Well, and they were hoping for excuses to sell.
Yeah.
And now they will have it. Even you know, if they win a couple games here and there, it's still going to be kind of easy to say that they're not close enough to do it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Is this kind of, I mean, does it surprise you that they kind of had this fall coming right, skipping out of the All-Star break?
The Reds?
Yeah.
I thought they'd be a little bit better. But yeah, so I guess a little bit. You're never quite. I didn't think they were. I don't think anybody in this division's any good, basically, when it comes down to it. So you could tell me about just about anything, and I'd believe it, other than the Pirates being okay. I mean, really, there are 4 okay teams in this division, and then the Pirates.
No.
Trent, we did get one question. I wanted to make sure we definitely answered. I got a question on Twitter earlier today to ask you. Someone wanted to know about WKRQ in Cincinnati, your podcast. Is that
WARP in Cincinnati?
Sorry, I butchered that.
Yeah, they're not plans right now. I enjoyed it, but not enough to do it all myself with Paul Daner. Paul Daner probably did more than I did.
Man.
Paul's awesome.
Yeah.
One of my favorite people in the world. And then he's damn good at his job to boot. Not right now, unfortunately. We had a good time because it was an hour a week or 2 hours a week that I got to spend talking to Paul. But when the pandemic hit, they kind of changed some of our stuff at the Athletic and some of the podcasts that didn't have as many listeners kind of got to put on hiatus, perhaps permanent. So yeah. So basically we didn't have enough listeners.
I listened.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. It was fun because I enjoyed talking with Paul. But yeah, that's not in the plans right now. So
You guys had a really fun episode. It was right in the middle of that late season run. I remember you and Paul had an episode that was really, really just a fun listen. So yeah, it's a shame.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. The end of last year is kind of a blur for me. It was, there's a lot going on.
How's it right now? Like, what are you restricted from? Like, how's your everyday life at the field?
That's a good question. We are not in the clubhouse yet. The biggest difference is we're not in the clubhouse post game. So we're still doing post game stuff on Zoom. So it's hard to get anything that's kind of different after the game and a reaction to what happened on the field. That's still all Zoom group interviews, which I hate.
Yes.
And I think it, because there's a lot of reasons to dislike it. Part of it is getting stuff by yourself and because that minimizes the relationships you have. Carlos can talk to this. Like, who the guys are, who you can trust and who can say something, and you can say, listen, all right, this isn't to be printed, but this is what's going on, or this is, I don't want to say it this way, but you can paraphrase. And there are certain guys who will do that for me and say, hey, listen, this is what's really going on. I can't say that publicly. Like, all right. And, so you try to put it out there in a different way. Not that Carlos said, but that it's in there and what's going on. That's part of it. The other part is I feel like I'm doing other people's jobs for them. I'm not getting paid by Bally Sports, but yet I'm doing their job, or at least part of their job. Sinclair is not sending me money. And sometimes, me, Mark, Bobby, Charlie feel like maybe they should. And also, asking questions for TV is different than asking for print. When I write, I'm a big believer, and I still do this even on Zooms, even though I know it's kind of performative. I believe that my question should never be more important than the answer. And I don't know that everybody else shares that. And I don't know if that's really like TV. They're part of their performance. They're part of the show too. So they have to ask their questions differently. But for me, I'm not asking so that somebody on Twitter can say, hey, a good question by Trent. I'm asking so that I can get the answer. and it's something that I can actually want to know and learn from. And I feel like a lot of that nuance is lost, and it is hard to gain that trust or build those relationships with what we're able to do now. That said, we are on the field before the games, like during batting practice and before batting practice. So you can have some of those discussions. It's so much easier on the road. And it's so much better on the road because the way it works is the home team always takes batting practice first. And usually so that they're not on the field much when fans are there. And so if you're the visiting team, you're not doing much anyway. You're getting the ballpark early on the road and you're just kind of hanging out at the field. And those guys will do that. So they'll be out and I can be like, hey, you got a minute or something? And we set something up and we can have longer talks. At home, guys are more comfortable that they can show up late. They just show up, they go, they take BP, and then they'll go back into the clubhouse and they won't stick around. So it's hard to get those kind of interviews. Like I did a story on Jesse Winker from the All-Star game. Well, that was probably 4 interviews in 3 different time zones over 45 minutes to an hour. Because I did that in Kansas City. I did that in Cincinnati. I did that in Denver. I did that so many different places because that's where I had access. And I said, hey, Jesse, on the road, can we talk a little bit more? And he said, yeah. And, so I just kept building on that. And those are the things to really get that kind of time with people and to get into that kind of story. And this was a story that I couldn't do over Zoom because it was Jesse talking about his daughter and like his decision not to really talk much about it before and how she changed him and all these things that I don't get if I don't know Jesse Winker since he's 19. And I also don't get if it's just on Zoom and it's not him and I talking alone.
Right. Yeah, I think it'd be tough to build any sort of rapport or as a player, I want to be able to trust you. And
yeah. Well, and the other part of this is, and I think this is a great point as a player. One day we were there when we got on the field and Wade Miley I think this was even before we got on the field. Wade Miley says, I miss you guys in here. Really, Wade? Cool. He's like, yeah, because if you write something I don't like, I can wring your neck. And I said, exactly, Wade. There is accountability. And if I write something, I'm sure shit showing up there. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
No, you're totally. We do too.
Okay. Nick has a really bad mouth.
Oh, good. I sure shit am going to show up. Like the other night, I wrote that, hey, this is bad. Seasons don't end in July, but this ain't good. And I had someone, and it's not somebody that most people would name the name. So I don't need to play guessing games.
Sure.
But the next day, I wrote, hey, this looks like the season might be over. They don't end in July, but it ain't looking good. And I had someone come up, and it was it threw a couple people because he's like, happy opening day. And then like, kind of smile. And he's like, yeah, amazing. Opening day, and the league already gave us 4 games over 500. His point was, oh, well, the season ended last night. Today's opening day. You've already said our season's over. Then what are we still doing here? And I got his point. It was funny. A couple other people were like, what is he doing? And I was like, no, this is what it is. But you know what? If I write that, I make sure I'm there the next day. There are days I take off. Saturday was a day that I had taken off. I know that was, it wasn't any great foresight, but was I glad I had taken that off. But there were those days but if I had written that after Friday's game, I would have been there Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it is because, listen, I'm always going to be there. And if I get it wrong, and I've gotten it wrong before, I'm going to be there and you can tell me. And I will do my best to set the record straight. And I think those of us who do the job seriously, when we make sure that if we write anything critical, we're going to be there and we're going to be seen. And we're going to say, hey, you have your chance. I had mine. You have yours. That's, me, Mark Sheldon, Bobby, and, and I've seen Charlie do it too in his limited time with that actual ability. So the guys who are actually on the beat, who are actually doing the beat work, do that. And it's a point of pride for all of us, because I think it's only fair. And that's one of the many ways you build trust.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Trent, man, we did hit the time you had with us. So thank you again for everything you gave us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm sorry I had to cut out early.
No worries.
So next, there will be a next time. If anytime you guys want, let me know. And Carlos has my number, because I have Carlos's, because like I said something to my wife, like, oh yeah, I agreed to do a podcast. I said, Carlos. So, and she's like, oh yeah, it's like he was part of the Mappo story. So I owe Carlos many times over for that fun stuff. But yeah, anytime, certainly let me know. We'll do it again. And I apologize for having to bug out early tonight. It's been
no worries, man. We're glad to have you. Randy Slack told me to say hi to you though.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Very good.
Take it easy, man. Thanks for joining us, Trent.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
So, guys, now that we are now at 1-5 post All-Star break, and I need some optimism from our guy Nick Kirby. You're always the one that when I feel like things are going to shit, you give me like the it's gonna be okay talk. So Nick, tell me it's gonna be okay.
Why do I always have to be this guy?
Because Nick.
Because I sure as hell not Nick.
Well,
you guys don't live here anymore. I still live here. I still am around this all the time.
Well, okay. So you start with this. The Reds just lost 2 of 3 to the Mets, and they gained a half game in the process. That's a positive, right? I mean, you don't need to lose a series and gain ground, but they did. So they gained a half game. They're 6.5 back. They're not 12.5 back. I don't know. They're one good weekend away from completely changing the narrative, right? I mean, and it's all perspective right now. The Reds could have, took 2 of 3 against the Brewers, but then the Brewers sweep the Royals, and they're probably right about the same, so it's all about perspective right now. Castellanos news isn't awesome.
That's not fun.
But hopefully, I hope they're going to play Aristides Aquino. I don't know what they were doing for 3 days. The weirdest decision I've ever seen. Maybe not ever, but it's up there. I just, you get a big bat out of the lineup. You have a guy who's just banging at the door to get in the lineup. He sure showed up the last 2 days. So, I think Aquino's a guy who could get hot for a couple weeks,
Sure. I'm batting him freaking 7th.
Yeah.
When he's in there.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of season left. Again, what have we been saying all year? Good week, bad week, good week, bad week. We'll be right back here next week, and we'll probably be, we're right back, baby. And then the next week we'll probably be like, oh my God, it's a long season, a lot of games left. I've been saying all year, and I'll shut up. Brewers 3 starting pitchers. Brandon Woodruff this weekend will eclipse his season high in his career. Peralta and Burns are already well past it. They are all in uncharted territory. So there is no guarantee those guys are going to hold up. And I hear people saying, so you're rooting for injuries or the Reds are going to win on injuries? No, the Reds, if they're able to survive this season, they're going to survive because they spent money on their starting pitching, and the Brewers spent nothing. They have spent $7 million on their starting pitching. They're all young guys that are controllable. Good for them. They've developed them, but they're not proven. So that's the thing I think to watch. And yeah.
I really hope the Brewers also give Rowdy Tellez a couple more at bats because he's so good.
Rowdy.
Yeah.
Good old Rowdy.
He's got a cool name. I mean, but yeah.
He's some massive minor league numbers.
Dude, he's a massive dude. I was on the first baseline Saturday night and saw him going the first base when he was running out that ground ball. And I was like, holy shit, how's that dude moving? He is. Yeah, he's a mammoth of a human. But yeah, I definitely agree. You know, especially, you know, we got the Cardinals and Cubs series coming up. These are a big 7 games for this team to gain some ground back, not on the Milwaukee, you know, force the door for those other 2 teams to make sure they don't have a chance to come back and get in this, because the Reds aren't too far ahead of either of them, like Trent mentioned. So these are big 7 games. You know, I know that these are the 3rd and 4th place teams in the division. These are teams you should beat, especially with 3 home games. So I feel okay about it. You know, obviously you've got Luis going on Saturday and against Jake Woodruff, who will not be facing Nick Castellanos, unfortunately. But you know, there's reasons for optimism if they can kind of pull something out in these 2 series. You know, you take 2 of 3 from the St. What you would just say? You take 2 or 3 from St. Louis, and you take 2 of 4 in the Cubs series. You feel good, or does it have to be 3 of 4?
I mean, it all depends on what the Brewers do. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
You know, if the Brewers, you know, go 6-2 over their next 8 games, then you got to match that almost. But if Brewers, you know, go 2-6, like they're due to do at some point. They're gonna suck at some point. It is coming. I don't know how much they're gonna suck, but they're gonna suck at some point. They have been playing at a ridiculous pace over the last I don't know, since like late May. They're gonna slow down at some point. But again, look at who the Reds have faced starting pitching wise the last, you know, 4 or 5 games. Woodruff, Burns, Stroman. Yeah, they're looking at Wade LeBlanc, Jake Woodruff, Johan Oviedo, Kyle Hendricks, Adbert Alzolay, Zach Davies, Alec Mills. Things can look a lot different, you know, when you're facing that kind of starting pitching. And the Cardinals bullpen is maybe as bad as the Reds right now. So, yeah, see what happens.
Except for their closer. Don't get it to their closer.
Yeah. You what, 6 runs?
Did he?
Yeah, no. Was it last night? Or 2
I
days
don't know.
ago?
I didn't see that.
Yeah, the Cubs were down 5 runs in the 9th, and he gave up 6 runs.
They brought him in with a 5-run lead.
I think so. They haven't been winning any games. I mean, they're, you know, as much as everyone, you know, hates on the Reds right now, man, the Cardinals and Cubs have looked awful. Yeah. Yeah, Alex Reyes, when you're walking like 7 guys per 9 innings, eventually it's going to catch up with you. It caught up with him.
Well, both of those guys have won more games than the Red. Everybody's won more. We're tied with the Pirates on the last 10 games.
Yeah.
4 and 6.
Yeah, but go last 30, last 40. It's quite a different story.
Yeah. I don't know how to do that. I just was quick.
Let's put up the standings.
Yeah.
ESPN's actually like got a pretty good advanced stats website. I have to give them props for that. Like they're the last person I would think that would be like acknowledge that. So I had to give them props when I looked at that the other day. I want to kind of touch on this real quick because it's starting to gain traction, and I know it's something a lot of people are talking about. This is good things here. So obviously, if you've listened to this show all season, being it's our first year doing this, you have never once not heard us sing the praises of one Jonathan India for what he has done, not only as a leadoff hitter, but you know, having an above 400 on base percentage as a rookie is unbelievably impressive. And I tweeted about this the other day, so I looked up on DraftKings because we're getting closer now to where people are paying attention to awards. And obviously, when you have a guy like Jonathan India, who's a rookie who's highly producing, the wonder is obviously going to be like, what are his odds of National League Rookie of the Year? So I looked into it, and I was kind of looking at the betting odds. I know Carlos and I have a couple of gambling texts here and there. And right now, Jonathan India is 3rd in betting odds according to DraftKings, behind Brian Hayes, who is like a plus 600. I think Jonathan India was like a plus 800 last I saw. I know. And Marlins all-star pitcher Trevor Rogers right now is even. So if you bet on Trevor Rogers and you bet like $100, you're not making any money on it. So I was kind of blown away by this. Not necessarily that Rogers is leading, because he has been terrific. But I do also think at some point, because the Marlins are going to be out of it, he'll probably be on an innings limit. But the fact that Brian Hayes is better betting odds than Jonathan India when he's played like 20 less games, his on-base percentage I think is 50 points lower, and I probably just made him freaking Roberto Clemente the rest of the year.
Yeah,
because I have a tendency to do that.
You woke him up.
Yeah, so
I swear to God.
Hold on. They do have like 6 games against the Brewers in like the next 2 weeks, so wake your Brian up. Wake him up. Wake him up, Tim. Let's go.
And do people follow us enough to know the joke now about Freddie
I don't
Freeman?
know.
Okay, so I like said that thing that like when the Braves came to town where Freddie Freeman was struggling. Of course, he blew up in the Red Series.
And we
now,
initially said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And he kept going.
Couldn't keep my mouth shut. And so now every time like he does something, Carlos or Nick will send it to me. And so it's become a fun joke. But yeah, so I totally get how Trevor Rogers is leading. But I think feel pretty good about the fact that India can make a run at this, especially with how well he's performed at the plate. And I don't know, he keeps getting hit with pitches, so his on-base percentage keeps going up.
Yeah, I don't know how Brian Hayes is ahead of him. I mean, like, dude hasn't played any games. His OPS is like 50 points lower. Garbage. Yeah, I mean, Rogers is by far the front runner. I think he's like a full win.
Yeah.
In F4 ahead of him. So he's a front runner. But yeah, I mean, he probably will get shut down. And that could definitely give India a chance to gain the ground back or whatever. And I don't know, man. You can't say enough good things about Jonathan India. His expected stats have really kind of taken off recently. I don't know, a couple weeks ago, you could look at his like expected stats, and they were saying he was pretty lucky. Still good, but not anywhere near the level. They're really starting to take quite an uptick to where it's saying he's pretty much earning what he's got or getting closer to it. So that's good, I think, more for sustainability purposes than anything else.
And he likes orchids.
Yeah. What?
Did you see that whole thing about how he's like a big fan of flowers and like really preferably orchids?
No, I didn't see that. Is that why you posted that picture?
The picture I got in trouble with.
Oh.
You got in trouble for that?
No. I long story. I thought we could use screen caps from TV. Someone else posted it, and so I guess we can do it now. No, Doug shut it down. Doug doesn't want to get sued by Bally Sports Ohio.
Makes sense. So with him, having a guy like that. So Carlos, I know you talk a lot with like, are you allowed to tell us if Joey's told you what he thinks of India and like how like the spark plug he's been for this team?
We haven't talked about any specific player like that. If we ever do, it's like at the end of the year or in the off season, stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, makes
usually
sense.
whenever we talk, it's usually about stuff other than baseball because he's pretty worn out about that.
I can imagine. During
the season, he's going at it all day, and then last thing he wants to do is have me ask him questions about that. So,
yeah, that makes sense.
What about the finals lately?
Yeah, I don't think the city of Milwaukee cares that the Brewers got swept today. I don't think they do.
Hey, they were at the game last night.
Yeah, Christian Yelich was there. Like,
yeah, the owner got him a suite, and they were there. And yeah, I hope. Hopefully that messed them up. I don't know.
Hopefully they go to the parade too.
Yeah, enjoy it, celebrate hard. These opportunities don't come every day.
Again.
Yeah. They don't come.
Hours into the night, just keep on doing it.
If you need to take a couple days off,
I
mean, call up some guys.
Let Giannis have a couple of ABs, like activate him.
Giannis.
That would be kind of awesome. I would pay money to see Giannis do that.
They don't make pants long enough.
No. I remember like there was that clip of LeBron taking batting practice at an Indians game, and it was like, oh yeah, this is why you played basketball. Like you're the best athlete I've ever seen in my life, but swinging the bat is not your specialty.
That's so funny to me, like either a basketball player or a freak like athlete, like a cornerback or a safety linebacker that like they can move the way they do, but you get them like to throw a baseball and they look like they're 4 years old. It's just so funny.
It almost makes you appreciate Deion Sanders a little more, that he was like a decent baseball player, but a Hall of Fame football player.
Yeah.
Like pretty impressive.
Very much so.
Yeah. So obviously, we get this Castellanos news, which makes things a little bit more of a panic level. But want to get your guys' thoughts on this as well. David Bell said, and we've talked about this quite a bit, obviously, that next week Nick Senzel is going on his rehab assignment, and he has mentioned he'll see him play shortstop and center field next week on his rehab assignment. So was curious your guys' thoughts on hearing that news.
Play him as many places as you can. I mean, at this point, you can't pencil him in anywhere and bank on him taking over a spot. So why not have him, be Mr. Super Utility? If he is able to stay healthy, he can be very, very valuable there. I don't think the Reds have a need in center field right now. With Naquin and, with Aquino right now. I guess I'm a little surprised. I don't know. Maybe reading into it, maybe they are feeling better about Moustakas, because I would have thought, they're not going to bench Suarez anytime soon. But I would have thought maybe, have Senzel starting a game or two there. So I'm a little surprised they didn't mention that. Maybe they just feel like he doesn't really need to take any games there. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Nick. Just put him out there wherever he can, fill him in. If you can get in the lineup, somebody gets dinged up. India's getting pretty banged up. Daily. He could use a spell. Like, more plays he can play, because like Nick said, you can't pencil him in anymore. We can't just say, okay, he's our center fielder and batting sixth or whatever. That's not what's going on right now. We're not at that point in the season. Can't rely on it. There's just so many different moving parts on the roster right now. It's just the more spots you can play, the better.
Yeah. I
Nick
can't
Zobrist,
see.
right?
Yeah. I can't see him playing shortstop 5 times a week.
It might be more of kind of like a double switch type of deal, the last 2 innings or something like that. I don't know. I'd still be kind of surprised if it was in there, you got the start at shortstop.
Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they call him and Barrio up at the same time, and they're not going to probably call Barrio up and have him play 7 days a week. Maybe have him play 5 and get Senzel start there. And I don't know. I don't know. Kind of seems like a desperate move. He can't be any worse than Suarez at shortstop.
I was going to
Can't
say
hit any worse than Kyle Farmer.
How Barrios kind of forcing them to make a move here. If he keeps hitting like this,
he's
what are we
been
gonna
pretty
wait
damn
for?
good. Yeah.
If you're going to get a shortstop, then get one, then you can send him down. But for the time being, not going to be any worse than what's there.
Yeah.
There's at least some power threat in there in that bat.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, like you said, the way he's been hitting at Louisville has been pretty exciting. Like I said last week too, Hunter Green played shortstop. Maybe that's a 2-way option, and then 2-way infielder, pitching infielder. We haven't seen that yet. We've seen the outfielder, obviously.
Saw Joey taking some balls off the pitching machine to catch.
I saw that.
Catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
You never know, guys.
We gotta mention Joey. I tweeted this out earlier today. He passed Winker and Castellanos in one of my favorite stats, expected weighted on base average, kind of saying what you should have earned. So how about this season from 37-year-old Joey Votto? He's been better than the numbers that already look incredible for being 37 years old. And just what a season for him.
Someone tried to warn y'all about that. I took notes.
We never said anything bad about Joey Votto.
And to his credit, I've been a little more, concerned about some of the left-handed splits. He had 2 massive hits against left-handed relievers on Monday and Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
He's been incredible.
Well,
yeah, he's got dead center power again lately. It looks like it's been pretty fun. That homer he hit yesterday was.
That was a nice one.
Yeah, like it. But you kind of mentioned the July he's been really good. I think it's far-fetched to obviously ever expect him to be, 2017 Joey Votto again, but what we're seeing now is pretty nice.
Yeah, I love 2021 Joey Votto.
Yeah, big fan.
Yeah.
Just quit checking your swing, will you?
That was a garbage call.
That was pretty brutal. Yeah. So Nick, you said we got some fan questions.
Yeah. We'll start with one that I think is something we do kind of probably should kind of like have a little bit of a discussion about. So we'll kind of lead it into that, I think.
Sure.
The question from Mr. Wanmath. This year, David Bell has seemingly abandoned the use of the entire bench every game philosophy. Does he change his philosophy, or does he not have enough quality infield bats right now? And then I think probably, have a discussion maybe, about Bell and some of his recent, managing, and because I know it's kind of been a hotter topic than normal the last couple of days. I don't necessarily think he's changed his philosophy. I mean, he's still, like he pinched hit Freeman over Aquino, so he's still very.
And then pinch ran Aquino.
Yeah. But I don't think it's changed. I mean, I think there's been a little less moving parts just because there's not as many quality players like last year. I mean, the Reds had like multiple platoons. I don't know. The very interesting thing for me would be if you have Senzel, and say you had Barrio up and you have Aquino, would they platoon Winker? Because I think they should. I think the number is 100% supported to everyone, despising it. But like he doesn't have that option right now. Like there's not even there's no viable option to platoon with him. So I think it's more about the personnel. So I don't know. What's your guys' thoughts? And then we'll get into maybe more of a discussion of his.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of options to come off the bench right now, and I mean, usually managers would kind of go off a feel of the game, and right now it's probably predetermined who's going to be first off the bench no matter what. Like there's like a pecking order almost. I mean, he's like I've said many times, he's just playing with the cards as he's been dealt, and he's had a rough week for us being a Monday morning quarterback, but I mean, I still have all the faith in the world in him. He's done a really good job. So,
yeah, I was at a game Saturday where Mike Freeman played center field. So that tells me everything I need to know about the status of the bench.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I mean,
Mike Freeman if you passed him on the street?
No, couldn't pick him out of police line, man.
Nick, would you?
Probably, but I'm a sad person, so I could probably catch a lot of guys on the street that you'd be like, how do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that door too has kind of been a revolving one. Obviously we talked about Scott Heineman. I know he just got removed from the Reds rosters. Alex Blandino's been hurt, and so this not that that's like this saving grace by any means, but you just kind of seen this revolving door with those guys. Mark Payton's been there this year, just different things like that. So yeah, I think it's just kind of the hand he's been dealt.
Not a whole lot of depth.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are bringing up the idea of TJ Friedel coming up from Louisville because he's been having a really good season down there, but it's another thing of like where, maybe now that Castellanos is hurt, that's a possibility, but I don't see how it makes a ton of sense.
804 OPS at AAA is a really great season. I don't know. The Reds have a guy that has 1,000 OPS that they've been leaving on the bench in the major leagues this year. So I don't know about that. Yeah, so I don't know. On David Bell, like I obviously have been the biggest David Bell fan, and to my credit or fault or whatever for a long time. I thought he had a miserable week. I don't understand so much of what he did. Don't understand why Aquino didn't play with Castellanos out. Didn't understand. I felt like the game on Monday was his worst as a manager. And I don't know. I mean, managers are going to have bad games, just like players are going to have bad games, just like umpires are going to have bad games, just like fans are going to have bad games, just like podcasters are going to have bad podcasts, like it happens, but
whatever.
There was just so many things in that game, like not walking, Jeff McNeil with the pitcher spot on deck, like just like asleep at the wheel type things. But again, that doesn't make him a bad manager. Doesn't mean, going forward. But I don't know. I wonder if,
Bottom line, guys, it never comes down to the manager.
well, I mean, Mike Freeman batted
Never.
with the winning run on third base. I mean, that doesn't help.
It was freaking 26 outs before that.
Well, yeah, but it could have changed. It could have been a W or an L if it goes one way or the other. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, again, it doesn't take away my thoughts on David Bell. I'd still extend him right this second. But I thought he had a really miserable game and a really bad week. Now at best,
They all did.
At best, probably maybe one win flips. It's not like, he lost the Reds all 5 of those games.
They all had a rough week. Sacrifice a live chicken tomorrow.
The fans had a rough week. Yeah, everyone had a rough week. But
Red's Twitter was on fire, though. That was nice.
What'd you say?
I said Red's Twitter was on fire. That was nice.
Yeah.
I had to I had to really take a step back. It was getting dark, man.
Yeah, man. Sometimes I don't know how you do it. Sometimes I see the stuff you get in your mentions. I'm like, man, sometimes I wish I had the Reds following Nick has, and sometimes I'm glad I don't.
Blessing and a curse, baby. Yeah, today I was working while I was watching the game.
We all were, yeah.
But I mean, as the game went on, you probably noticed I didn't tweet a whole lot today. I was like, yeah, this is not a tweet through game. I'll let everyone else, You
had a couple in the first 2 innings, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, you just disappeared after the second inning.
It went dark. I don't think Jeff Hoffman pitching today was bad. I'll say it. I don't have a problem with it. Shoot me. I know everyone else did. I don't know. I think everyone thinks Jeff Hoffman is like David Holmberg, but he's actually more like Scott Feldman. He's not good, but he's not terrible. I don't know. It's just, it's a long grind this season, and they're getting all of their starting pitchers an extra 2 days of rest. And I don't know. I'll question a lot of things, but the thing I don't typically question is the health of a player, because I'm not there. I don't know. I don't know if did Tyler Malley after his last start kind of say, hey man, my shoulder's a little sore than it normally is, or they didn't start Wade Miley till the 5th game after the All-Star break. Was there a reason for that? So there could be more reasons than we're letting on. And again, the team the Reds are chasing have been using a 6-man rotation for the majority of the season. Now they have younger pitchers, but I don't know. Carl, I know you have a different opinion on that, and you actually pitched, so I'll take your more opinion than any of the people in my mentions today, because you would know. I don't know. What's your take on Hoffman pitching and, the Reds getting 2 days extra rest for
I mean, I didn't think it was a good spot for it. It's not like we're in April or May. It's down 6.5 games and are in the middle of a losing streak, and it's just a different feeling whenever I don't want to be too harsh on him. Like I said, he's not as bad as what Twitter makes him out to be and stuff like that, and even the way I make him out to be. But it's a different vibe whenever you go to the game like that, and then you give a quick home run. That was fine, but then the walks, and then the loaded on the bases, and then the homer, and that's deflating. I don't care at what level you're at. It's going to be hard to come back. And a day game, players already hate day games, and so it's just all this negative energy out there. I mean, it's I think that's the only thing that makes sense. Nick is one of those pitchers saying, hey, I could use a couple days here. That's the only thing to me that makes sense, because to throw off a pitcher's routine, it's definitely a starting pitcher. It's a big deal, because they've got it mapped out. As soon as they're done throwing their last pitch, they're starting their routine to get them ready for the next day or the next start. And then if you just add you add 2 days, and so you're going to throw another bullpen now. So now you've thrown 3 bullpens in between your 2 starts. I don't know. It's not a comfortable feeling. So
I mean, I would certainly hope there was constant communication through all that. They were getting,
and there
input
definitely is,
from-
and they're not going to let her, and they won't let us know.
yeah. But
And
I do think it is a possibility there is more things going on behind the scenes than we know. And again, I'm not going to question health. I'll question, weighted runs created plus and things I can quantify. That I can't quantify that. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So
for sure.
Yeah.
I'll start them again soon, please.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of an interesting question because Gutierrez is, I guess, out of the rotation. I mean, is he worse than Gutierrez
I
or?
think they're like the same. I think all three of those guys are the same.
I mean, Sandion gave up a bomb today, in relief.
I mean, those probably Santion's probably number 3 out of those other two.
Yeah, I would
say
agree.
that's fair.
I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
And then the other two are just, I mean, I don't know.
I think I may lean Hoffman over Gutierrez, but again, I'm not like they say we want to go with Gutierrez. I'm not gonna be mad either way. So I guess I wouldn't say I'd be mad if Hoffman starts again because who else? And I don't think they think Hunter Green's ready. And Hunter Green has an ERA of over 4 at AAA right now. The last thing you want to do is call up Hunter Green. He's not ready. He gets beat
Destroyed.
around and has to get sent back down. Like that's not gonna do anyone any good. Lodolo is still in AA. Like he can't come straight up. So I don't know. Kind of right now,
Who are the other starters in AAA right now?
that's it. I mean, there's no one else knocking on the door.
I think Alanis was starting in AAA, and now he just got called up to the big league roster. And
Yeah. So again, I don't. I guess if Hoffman starts again, it's fine. But I think that's probably the last of the 6-man rotation until they have to. But who knows?
Yeah.
I think it's some more. We got a lot of good questions kind of flowing in, so definitely make sure we get to some of these.
Yeah, by all means.
With Nick likely hitting the 10-day IL, of course we don't know that for sure, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be ready on Friday. So let's just assume that they do have to put him on that. I know in his video he said he's hoping a couple of days of rest and reevaluate. I don't whatever, take that for what it is. Who would you call up? So I don't know. I was kind of looking through the numbers. The Reds don't have an outfielder to just replace it. I don't think they would need to call up an outfielder. But I guess the guys that I would be looking at would be, obviously they could call up, Barrio, and kind of shuffle guys around. But it's probably the Alejo Lopez, calling him back up. He could come back up if he's replacing an injury, or Max Schrock. Both of the guys hitting well at AAA, and or maybe you could go a little deeper down and Logan Morrison.
Yeah.
I think he's still on the rosters. I don't know. That's
He is.
probably
Isn't
the guys.
Isn't Maxwell Smith on the Louisville team too?
Yeah, but he's
Logan Morrison was always on my MLB The Show team somehow.
Yeah.
I didn't have
It was
money.
like the free
I
card.
sent to guess somebody else.
Yeah.
Malik Smith has a 553 OPS right now
Woof.
at AAA. So
Woof.
he would not be on my radar at the moment.
No.
But yeah, I mean, again, and I said earlier, I think it's got to be Aquino. I don't. You play him until he shows you otherwise. At this point, so
I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mentioned TJ Friedel earlier. That's the only outfielder I could really see, but that involves a 40-man roster move. So,
yeah. Adam corrected me because I'm wrong as always. Reyes didn't start that inning in Chicago or against the Cubs. I don't know. I think it was at Busch Stadium, which makes it better. But Alex Reyes did not start that inning, Carlos, so he didn't give up all the runs, but he was at the end of it.
Wow,
Can we all
man.
say that? Can we all say the Jeff Hoffman experience is over? Again, I think we kind of covered that. It doesn't. Yeah, he might have to start again, and I don't. Yeah, it's flipping a coin really at this point. But yeah, okay, I guess that's kind of it. A lot of it were just kind of comments in here. Sorry.
So just how about win some games that he's not starting? So if he does start, it's not the end of the world like it was today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, look, we're looking at, potential start against the Cubs. I know, they could have several guys traded by the 27th would be when he would line up again. I mean, they could have some guys traded by then.
Mm-hmm.
They could be not playing guys like Bryant. They've taken him out of the lineup. So, it could be a fortuitous lineup, to face. So that's what it is. Pretty much everything else we had was more just kind of comments and stuff. Not really any additional questions.
Yerman Mercedes retired.
What?
Yeah.
What?
For real?
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
said it's over on an Instagram post.
Huh.
First of all, I want to thank God for giving me the life of fans. Without them, I was nothing to my family, for understanding, blah, 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 blah. Not feeling decisions.
Late Night Red Sox breaking news.
Yeah.
Damn.
Carlos, Ken Rosenthal.
It's over. He'll be back.
Yeah, I mean, Tony La Russa is your manager. I'd hang it up too.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wow.
Let me ask you guys this before we potentially close out. Did you have an issue Saturday? I saw a lot of people were mad about this. I didn't necessarily have an issue with it. Did you have an issue with Lorenzen playing in the outfield after he pitched Saturday?
No.
I didn't either.
What he does.
Yeah. And he got injured a light jog home.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe you can have a case if he's diving for a ball and he gets hurt. Come on. Like, he's been doing that his whole career. I don't think he's ever got hurt on the offensive side of the ball. It's a fluke thing that happened. I mean, come on. And unless you were complaining when he came in the game before that happened, you're just a turd. And speaking of turds, Adrian Hauser is a giant turd.
Yes,
and we need to say it. I hope he's listening to this podcast. I don't like you. I hope you step in dog poop. Just stop hitting guys. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you have to keep hitting guys?
I hope you stub your toe and bend your nail.
This year's Ryan Madsen.
Yeah.
Madsen was worse. I mean, Madsen was definitely intentional. I mean, Hauser was intentional. Just you don't throw inside if you can't throw inside.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I mean, I was there. I had fun with it, and obviously, it was a good, with what the situation was. Of course, I did, Carlos, because I love it. It's the best.
You look a little pale.
Oh yeah, yeah. I was gonna say we had Trent on. It's the first person we've had on the show that has a better beard than me. So yeah. I didn't have an issue with it. I thought it was, I thought it made a lot of sense, especially you got to think without Castellanos. And at that point, Akiyama was taken out of the game. So it was like, whatever, like go with it. It was just weird when I had to see Mike Freeman play center field because they had used all their outfielders in the game because they went to extras. But what can you do?
Mike Freeman has played center field before. He can play every position except catcher. So
I saw that
his value to the team.
I noticed you said that through your teeth. Yeah. So the next time we have a show will be right before the trade deadline. So that could be interesting.
Live after a Cubs game. Oh, wait a minute. Please tell me the lines. Oh, no. Hoffman pitches Tuesday. I was hoping we were going live right after Hoffman.
Let's do a live show while Hoffman pitches.
Yeah.
Live stream. Oh boy. Yeah.
I'll be at Saturday's game with Jake Woodruff pitching. So it's a shame Castellanos won't be there, but hopefully someone else can put him in his place.
Yeah, just him on the bench. I mean, I feel like that's enough.
Yeah.
Enough terror for the young man to throw a meatball to Aristides.
Freaking MLB uses it on a promo. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. That was crazy.
I did love whenever Manfred was getting booed and he didn't like it at all. In the draft. Did you notice that at all? Did you watch it?
Yeah. Yeah, he got booed at the World Series really bad, and there was like half capacity too, and it was rough.
He didn't like it at all.
Yeah, I mean, like pretty soon I'm sure he'll have something with the shift where it's like, you can only stand in this square and you can only go to the corners of said square, and like that's probably where we're heading with him, like running the show right now. So what can you do? But yeah, next week we going late night Reds Talk Live.
We hope we're having a really, really cool guest. I don't want to announce it yet because still making sure, but we'll announce it if it's a done deal for sure. But yeah, you guys will definitely.
Oh, Johnny Bench said he was going to come on.
Yeah, he was like, I had so much fun in the booth.
He's gonna come on for a estimated start time of 11 o'clock. Probably like
best part was the inning. He goes,
well, yeah. That was great. All right. Lastly, hey, Reds fans, enjoy the day off tomorrow. You earned it. It's not over. 6.5. It's not 12.5. There's still 2 months to play. A lot of games left. It can flip on a dime. Remember, the Reds were 7 behind the Brewers. They got back to 4. They got you all excited. It could happen again in a week. So stay patient. Yes.
Break your heart later.
Yeah, maybe, but hopefully the Brewers break some hearts. I think it's their time to do some heartbreaking.
Yeah,
well, celebrate that championship.
You got a title. You don't need any more. Like
stand down. Stand down.
Exactly. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and we'll close this one out. Thank you all for tuning in. Like we say each and every week, hey, if you haven't done an Apple Podcast review for us yet, please do. It's a few seconds of your time, just a nice solid 5 stars. Goes a long way so we can be recognized in the algorithm of the Apple Podcast, which is, I'm still trying to figure that thing out, because if you type in late night, we pop up, but we're behind like Seth Meyers. That's understandable. Craig Kilborn. What was his name? James Corden.
It's not acceptable. That's not acceptable.
Yeah, don't put us behind James Corden. That guy's not funny. So thank you all again for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. So hopefully we're talking about the Red Legs picking up some games from the Cardinals and Cubs. And you all have a great night. Enjoy the series and go Red Legs.
See you.